Celebrating an event which took place nearly 200 years ago. The sights and sounds of a minstrel group, a cultural phenomenon in itself steeped in the slave history of the city. Many Cape Townians are descendants of the early people brought to the Cape for the specific purpose of enforced labour.
We've read that the enslaved people, at the stroke of midnight, they celebrated, they had bonfires around the city, they had music and performances, and so part of what we're doing as historical education is to reenact that moment.
The first slaves arrived in the 1600s, a few years after the establishment of the Cape as a Dutch settlement. During the 19th century, under British rule, the practice was finally abolished. Indigenous Khoi communities too were dispossessed of the independent way of life.
It's about how our identity was constructed to repress us, so I feel it's important to acknowledge our history and the way identity, in particularly the identity of a slave, was used to repress many of the people that constitute our incredible country.
Reclaiming the city, I think it's not only the history of enslavement, but also of freedom and also engaging the city as contemporary South Africa.
Now in its 9th year, the event aims to educate citizens of the human rights violations suffered by enslaved people. Also, to remember their contribution to building the city that now stands at the foot of Table Mountain. Vanessa Puna, SABC News, Cape Town.